Trigger.
Yes, lots.
Well, I'm going to zoom out and over. Focus on Marvin. And cut back the contrast. Well, we now should have... Marvin, will you look this way, please?
No, but maybe
Good.
you should try it.
We now have a small picture.
Would you like to try the...
All right. You're on.
You see here the 2500 machine displaying a number of moving spirals. These are very simple patterns, and we're just showing a number of them to give you some idea of the kind of pictures that can be displayed on the screen at one time. This machine is called the 2500, and basically it's a small, very powerful computer which has built into it hardware to run two kinds of displays. This is the central processor. This is the computer itself. This is a display which shows printed material, and it can use several kinds of fonts. In fact, you can design your own type font, and it can do a limited amount of picture displaying ability. And this is called a vector scope, which can show pictures made of lines and curves and points, and can show pictures that move quite rapidly, and any kind of animation that you can program. I'll say a few words about the computer. Here's a copy of the central processor unit. It costs us about $2,000 to make this thing. It consists simply of a power supply to run the components, and one large board that holds these integrated circuit components on it. It has about 250 chips, and it's in sections. This section is the memory. This is the computer itself. This processes the television display. This is the part that does arithmetic, and that's all. A computer that can do those things can do more or less anything. Over here in the corner is the part that produces the vector display on that scope, and it's capable of drawing line figures very rapidly. You have to understand that this machine cannot make filled-in regions very well. It can fill in a few small regions, but basically it makes things out of line drawings, and that's the reason for its speed and capability. So if you want shaded drawings, then this is the machine for you. Stop.
Well, you're on.
Well, I'm off again. Okay, we developed this machine to make it possible to bring graphics to people who couldn't afford $100,000 or so for a graphic system. And in particular, we had in mind people in schools. The languages and computer facilities in schools really are very primitive. They make the children learn to work with 1960 style equipment, and one of the things that we discovered is that animation really turns kids on and lets them do serious projects instead of just toy problems and forms to fill out. So one of the reasons why we think this machine makes animation practical for people is that we've developed a language and a computer system to go with it that makes it easy for ordinary people who aren't computer scientists or mathematicians or programmers to express themselves in moving graphic format. We think the machine can be made to sell for $5,000 or less. The company right now consists of 4 or 5 people who have put together about 20 of these, and the cost of assembling and constructing each one is somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. The displays cost about $300 each, the board about $1,000, and so forth. The components in mass production would presumably be quite a bit less, and the board quite a bit less, and so forth. The machine can be loaded, or any of the programs that you develop can be stored on a simple audio cassette, because the picture is not stored in video form. It's stored in a form you'll see shortly, just as a list of where the lines and points and how fast they're moving are. And so it's not necessary to store the whole 250,000 points that's in a standard video picture on the tape. That way we get an enormous amount of information for very low cost, and that's what makes having this sort of thing be usable in schools possible, and presumably for lots of other applications where one isn't using full video bandwidth. Also, the pictures can be sent along ordinary telephone lines without any trouble, because they appear on the telephone just in the same format as teletype characters, and you can get quite a lot of picture with quite a small number of words. If you describe a picture in words, you really win on the communication bandwidth score.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce Professor Seymour Papert of MIT, who developed the programming language that we use for this kind of animation.
That was Professor Marvin Minsky who designed and built this machine. I'm going to show you how simple it is to write some pictures in the language that we've developed for children and other people. It might not be exactly the language that you would need, but it does show you how simple it is to make a computer draw a picture. There you are. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate our simple graphics language called Turtle Geometry. The reason for the name is that the language is based on an imaginary creature, which you'll see on the screen in a moment, represented by a triangle. We can instruct the creature to move forward, and he'll do that, turn right, and he'll do that, move forward again, and he'll do that, and this way we can cause complicated figures to be drawn without having to worry about X and Y coordinates or other pseudo-mathematical complications. So let's tell the turtle to go forward 100 units and see what he does. See, we tell it by typing forward 100, and then when I press the do it button, it's going to do it. The camera is ready. I will press the do it button. Watch him. He went forward 100. Now if I say right 90, watch him change direction, and if I say forward 100 again, he is going forward 100. Right 90 again, forward 100 again. Something went wrong. Forward 100 and right 90 and forward 100. Where are we? I'm sorry, something funny happened. Are we still filming?
We're still.
100, there he went. Right 90, it's turned again. Forward 100 should complete the square. Well, that's square. If I say clear screen, it's gone. We can draw some more complicated things, like I can draw a circle. So I've written a program to draw a circle. You see it draws it slowly like that. I can draw it faster as well, but I'll draw another circle again slowly so you can see what's happening. That wasn't a circle. let's show you something else. An interesting command is to tell it to spin. I'll say spin 120, and now if you can see that turtle, you can see he's turning. While he's turning, if I set forward 100, you'll notice that any motion he's given while he's spinning, any instruction he's given inherits the turn. So there he is going that line, set forward 100. Suppose I take him back home. I'm going to say home. The turtle goes back to the center, if you notice. I'll tell him to stop spinning, and then maybe we'll tell him to spin at a slower rate, maybe 10, and then go forward again a smaller amount, and you should get something like a clock face. Well, I gave him the wrong order. He's spin better. Well, maybe that's a better clock than a real one. I'm going to rub it out and start again, and let's see if we can fill in a circle around it. Let's try that. There's the minute hand, hour hand going the wrong way, and there's the circle. Well, so there's not much of a clock, but you get the idea of how easy it is to make things move and draw a picture. So maybe we'll look at some of the more complicated things, like those that you saw Marvin Minsky demonstrating at the very beginning of this tape. Let's do something just a little bit more complicated. What I'm going to make it do now is draw forward, right, 90, forward, right, 90, just like we did before, except you see it does forward, right, 90, except each time it's taking a slightly bigger step. It's making a kind of square spiral. We'll go on for a while. Stop at any time. Stop. So let's play with that a little. I'm going to make something similar to that, except that this time I'm going to make it rotate. So tell it to go away, tell the turtle to spin maybe 30, and then I'll tell it to draw one of those things again. And go. But now this time, because the turtle was spinning when it started drawing it, it draws the thing in motion. And so notice the thing turning as it gets drawn, and it will go on turning as long as it exists. We can, there it is, have it turning, and it goes on like that. We could send the turtle home and then tell the thing to spin in the opposite direction and draw another one while spinning in the opposite direction, and now we've got the two superimposed spinning in opposite directions at somewhat different speeds. So we can play various games of this sort even without worrying about any complicated mathematics and geometry. If we want to stop that, we tell it to go away. It's gone.
Oh, incidentally, I'm Russell Science. I've been operating this camera for the last, few minutes or so. As Seymour has been demonstrating too.
Okay, so here's another one being drawn. Display. You'll see in a moment what the machine does if you ask it to put up even more line than it really can cope with in a straightforward way. See, up to now we've got a perfectly stable picture, and it's essentially putting up that picture fast. It's actually putting up a copy of the picture something like 60 times a second. Now watch what starts happening. It starts flickering.
Well, I'm the cameraman. I would admonish the audience not to despair, since the flicker emerges at roughly 4 times the framing rate required in video broadcast. 60 frames per second is the ordinary rate of display of this machine. It's now trying to do roughly 6 times as much at 10 frames and flickering accordingly. The line density, I'm told, is nominally capable of being run up to about 1,500 vectors of lengths, obviously, which can't exceed that of the screen. They overlap, as you see now, if they run off the edge. Now, this artifact is correctable built-in software.
Is that artifact is correctable in software? There's a limit to how much it can put up.
There certainly is,
Okay.
but that limit seems to me to be about 3 times video bandwidth. The machine has better than 50 nanosecond bit time and better than 5 megahertz bandwidth. So with 1.5 megahertz in color transmission, there's no problem in running a single channel of adequate information density on broadcast quality tape. Needless to say, this is not being taped on broadcast quality tape with an ordinary helical scan system. So I suppose I should apologize in advance for any artifacts that may emerge from the untried interaction of this helical scan system and this parallel line raster display. This is I suppose you describe as a moderate precision display. It's 1,000.
Oh, that's a very low persistence display. With a higher persistence display.
Well, I said precision. Persistence is really low. But it was 1,000 lines scope. And well, as I think we can go on to show you, displays with higher apparent resolution and slower stand time are certainly possible. And if one has ordinary studio equipment with variable frame rate scan speed, these artifacts can be dispensed with in real time, and I would hope quite trivially.
Well, should we look at some other pictures?
By all means. Now, we should explain where the pictures come from. This, of course, was just generated in real time by Professor Papert at the console here. One of the nicer properties of this machine, which I suppose the next thing we should demonstrate, is that once you've done something once, you can put it into memory of the central processor and bring it back as a multiple and fill the screen with many replicas of the same thing, either in motion or at rest, either in regular arrays or pretty much at random, or in any place you want. So anything that you can do with vector addition, given 1,500 vectors and given the bandwidth allowance we just described, can be put up with fair resolution on display. So why you can display is something of mystery to me, since most of the drawing I've seen done has been geometrical, and the system has not spent much time, to my knowledge, in the hands of people whose primary interests are graphic arts. So, given an artist of considerable skill and some patience, I should hope that 1,500 lines would add up to aesthetically quite satisfactorily complex images, instead of just geometrical figures and polygons, however elegant and psychedelic and interesting.
Well, certainly true. It really would be interesting to have some people with dedication to graphic arts and knowing what they're doing, try and draw some interesting pictures. I don't have any I can show you in that category. Perhaps I can show you some things that children have done.
Mm-hmm. And one hopes that the artist in question would not be deterred by the language, since it is literally a level of simplicity that allows it to be used.
I don't